training is not a junior training, it's a training for trainers. So at AMDISS or at IREX and also at Akan, we expected this to be like a high-level training because you need to build your capacity to be able to train others. So I expected that by the end of the 3 days, you should have enhanced your capacity to the level that you're able to use this knowledge to transport others. Because if you miss this opportunity, obviously, then you have not actually been part of these issues. So I just want to emphasize as part of my speech is that there are critical issues that are happening as part of the context in South Sudan, but also in line with the pluralism context. So I wanted to say, if you will permit me, that during this training, you begin to reflect in terms of what are the key effective pluralism and conflict management frameworks that are more important for you to be able to utilize when you go out there and begin to work with other media entities, including your own journalists. And also need to focus on what are some of those basic human needs that are to be addressed when it comes to media pluralism, especially in the context of South Sudan. And I want to say this, that there are significant needs that perhaps impacts women, significant needs that impacts youth, government officers, local government, local politicians, people in the private sector, religious groups, marginalized groups, and you name them, including armed actors that are more important. And I just want to draw this very closely in terms of some of the things, because some of the topics you talk about the peace processes and peace building in South Sudan or within other global contexts. I am aware that we have sent iMedia to go and cover the elections in Nairobi. But of course, there are also critical issues in the Nairobi peace processes that are requiring really hands-on contributions of media in that and that order. So, for example, issues to do with the justice, issues that are important, issues to do with the reconciliation, issues that are very important, the economic systems and the issues to do with economic empowerment for communities, and also not only economic empowerment as per se, but inclusive economic processes. I think those are issues that have been discussed in Nairobi issues. And the other is to do with the political system and the culture that requires to be adapted in South Sudan if we have to build peace in this country. And overall, there are also issues to do with the governance, the constitutional making processes that should be able to inform elections in the future. So as I want to say right now, of course, the US government does not recognize the December elections. They wanted to see that it's an inclusive election processes that are likely to bring about credible, peaceful, fair, reliable, and verifiable elections. Those are the terminologies. I just have to repeat. We must see elections that are more credible, democratic, fair, free, peaceful, and verifiable. Somebody should be able to say, you got 20 votes and somebody got 10 votes. We must verify that, right? And in that aspect, of course, the reason why the verification comes in to avoid rigging elections, because rigging elections brings about violence. And these elections must also be legal. It must be guided by a legal framework that emanates from a well-inclusive constitutional process. And this is what is lacking in this country. And that's the reason why there's a lot of debate in terms of how does a transition look like when people are going from these current processes to a new processes. And as you guys are aware that the whole peace agreement was a power sharing agreement. It's not something to do with the participation of people in some of these processes. So I need you guys to take this more seriously. And the other aspect before I actually conclude is also to talk about building your analytical capacity. Because if you don't know how to analyze conflict issues, it's difficult for you to talk about pluralism. So what kind of analytical skills do you have? Or what kind of analytical skills do you need to gain in the next 3 days in order for you to become as a unique human being or a unique journalist? The other is to do with how do you then begin to talk about cultural diversity with the thinking of analysis, because that's key in aspirations. What is your definition of diversity, and what's your definition of tolerance? Because that's one of those key issues that are required in South Sudan in terms of pluralism. And of course, when we talk about tolerance, we don't want to talk about tolerance in terms of content creation within the public information consumers, but even within your organization and within your own self, and then you go to trickle out to communities. That is to do with the judgment. What kind of judgment skills can you be able to have? Because if you don't know how to prompt analysis to inform you to make judgment,